Hey there everybody, Paler here bringing you part 3 of PlanetSide 2 for Dummies, the tutorial videos. This video is going to mainly cover, it's actually going to be one of two parts, so it's a mini series within the main series. That's going to go over the different types of bases and everything located around the maps, the three continents within PlanetSide. I don't know how SOE breaks it down, but basically I break it down to 5 different types of bases. You have the three large ones, which I would say are there's no argument here. It's the tech plants, the biolabs, and the amp stations. From there, you tend to have what I would consider the medium-size bases, which are the air towers, and then you have the small ones, which are the outposts. The outposts are probably the most numerous if you go through and add them all up. Hang on, I hear an aircraft coming. Let's make sure it's a friendly reaver. Yes, it is. Okay. The outposts are the most numerous around the map, but they're also kind of the least strategic. They're just I don't want to call them filler, but they're the locations that were put in place in order to make a strategic point on the map without having to have another amp station or air tower, because you just can't have 50 air towers. You have to have something else. And that's what I would call an outpost. I don't know if there's an official term for them, but that's what I call them. So in this video, I'm going to go over the two smaller ones. I'm going to cover the outposts and the air towers. So let's start off with the outposts. The outposts are going to be where you actually do a lot of your fighting. Maybe not the longest fightings, as they're much harder to defend and a lot easier to attack, especially with a force in numbers. They can just overrun an outpost in a matter of like 3 or 4 minutes. So you might not spend a lot of time there, but you're going to spend a lot of... They're going to be a point that you capture and move on from a lot of times. So duration-wise, they're not going to be very long, but capture point-wise, or amount of times captured, they're going to be pretty common. An outpost, what I consider most outposts, are things like this right here, where it's a single point. This one only has an alpha, if we get a little bit closer, right there at the base of the tower. Normally they also have an ammo tower, which is that right there. They also have a vehicle spawn terminal. Woo! Don't hit it, don't hit it, don't hit it, okay. They also have a vehicle spawn pad normally. Now it's not a full-size vehicle spawn pad most of the times. They just have sunders, flashes, lightnings, those type things. You're not going to get main battle tanks out of it. And that's actually located right there on this particular outpost. Now the outposts, for the most part, like I said, they're not all that strategically important, but they do bring a good bit of variety to the game. Whereas all the other structures, the air towers, the amp stations, biolabs, and tech plants, for the most part, those guys are all very much the same structure over and over and over. If there's 3 biolabs on one continent, all 3 of them are going to be 85 to 90% the same structure. There'll be little variations on them in like the buildings at the base of the legs or how many air pads they have on them, but for the most part, it's the same base you're fighting. These outposts bring a good bit of variety, as in they have some real different layouts to them, and the layouts are mostly based on the terrain they're in and how many structures are in them. So if we fly down here real quick, this outpost is actually pretty spread out. This one would be pretty easy to assault with armor, as you can get armor all the way around it and everything. There's room in between that you could drive tanks up in. The one difference, though, you'll notice this just compared to the last one, is Alpha is there in a building. So, I apologize, I got a little bit of a itchy throat today. So whereas if you remember the point we just looked at before, which was back over that way somewhere, the point was the capture point was actually located at the base of the tower. So anybody standing there trying to cap that thing, because you got to be within 10 yards of the capture point, could have been gunned down by aircraft pretty easily. They could have had tank shells lobbed at them and so forth. This one's actually located inside a building. And it doesn't seem like much of a difference, but it does bring a little bit of variety, and there's far more that have greater variety to them. Just going to go over real quick the basics, though. So we have the point, the vehicle terminal, and then a large spawn room here, actually. This is one of the bigger spawn rooms that you're going to come across. Now, if we fly, I'm trying to think, there's the ridge camp. I think that's right here. No, it's up over the next ridge. Trying to find there's a unique one here. Oh, there it is. Trying to remember where it was. No, that's not it. There it is. So this guy is a larger, but I would still consider it an outpost. Maybe there should be 6 classes, small outposts and medium outposts, but I just consider this an outpost. So the only way to get to this guy is actually got to drive out across this bridge, or use light assault or aircraft to come into it. In this one, you can actually see it still only has one point, which is Alpha, located inside this much, much larger building right here. This one actually has 2 landing pads, so you can spawn vehicles here, or ESFs and Liberators, so you're not going to be able to spawn galaxies. No! 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 Whoa! That was a little too close. I am not the best pilot, you'll find out. I can fly enough to be dangerous, and that's about it. We'll come over here and land and repair. So, but you can clearly see, compared to the last 2 outposts we look at, were relatively similar. This one is completely different. So the strategy for attacking this guy would be vastly different. In order to really get to this guy, you either need to send a group of light assaults up with spawn beacons that you can drop so you can get people in here, or you got to bring a convoy across that bridge in order to assault this base. So the tactics are very varied, and it does change the combat a good bit. And that is what is really strong about these outposts. While none of them are all that complicated, you know, you got 1, 2, maybe 3 points, 1 ammo tower, and so forth, there is a good bit of variety in their design that is not in the other bases, and that makes them really strong. From there, let's go ahead and let me think. We'll just go back over to this air tower real quick. Air towers are one of my favorite things to fight at. I like fighting air towers, mainly because they really benefit the defender. It's been a problem with PlanetSide 2, and they've gotten it a lot better, where offense had all the advantage, there was no defensive advantage. These air towers have been modified a good bit to where the defense is there. Now this air tower, if you look down here in the lower left, you'll see has 3 points: Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. Alpha point on these guys is almost always, I can't say it is always, but almost always, going to get a little bit of ticks on this, located in the very center of the air tower. It is one of the hardest points to capture in the game, outside of some of the ones in the biolab, just because of where the spawn of the enemy, if you're an attacker now, where the spawn of the defender is located is so close to Alpha, it makes it very hard to capture. If we run down here, jump down, here's where Alpha is. And you saw right up there was the spawn room. And they can come in and out, but they can also come out up higher, come in behind. There's a bunch of paths around this air tower that make it very, very hard to defend. Man, this guy, I took down a scythe earlier. I think he's running around popping all of our stuff. So now I can claim a bunch of points by repairing everything. So this is almost always where Alpha is, but I can't say it is always where. A lot of times. Then Bravo and Charlie are actually located on the outskirts of the base. So Charlie's down there in that building, and Bravo is over in this building. The other thing about air towers that is nice, not just the defensive guns and everything, if we go back around and down below here, there is a lower pad with, I got myself turned around, wanted to go left right here, vehicle terminals. So you can see right there is a vehicle terminal, vehicle terminal, there's the pad for it, and there's another one that mirrors. So this room is mirrored on the other side, basically. They're not all that complicated, but their setup with the way the defensive room is, or the spawn point room is, with the defensive structures, really gives the defenders a strategic advantage. In order to take one of these bases out, you probably need 25 to 35% troop advantage, or just a lot of coordination, which you don't find in a lot of pugs. So a well-grouped team working together can put up a good defense here and have a great time with just 5 or 10 or 15 soldiers, which is a lot of fun. There's no real, let me think here, yeah, there's some shield stuff, but that's not in these towers. We'll get into that on the amp station. So I'm going to cut off part 1 here, keep this one nice and short, and we'll come back with part 4 of For Dummies, part 2 of the structure video here in a bit. This has been Powler. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.